How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Coffee House Comics. I'm David. This is Rory, and we are here another time, a little bit early, doing it Wednesday night. We'll try to do it again on Sundays, but trying to get a little more content out there, trying to be more lively and everything. Do want to touch base on two real life things real quick. Friend of ours, father passed away, so if we just want to let them know prayers and condolences out to them, and hope that. I'm not good at this, but
we're thinking about you, kiddo.
Yeah, so we're thinking about you. So a little bit brighter news, and this is maybe because I'm a new dad. You've been a dad for a little bit.
Oh, just a little bit.
Just a little bit. So, did you want to share your proud dad moment with everyone, or were you curious?
No, matter of fact, I've had several, but my son was. He doesn't even know this yet, and I haven't even told my wife and my younger son. But
I'm sorry.
So now, you're outing me now. But my older son was actually nominated for the November Player of the Month through a very prominent website that has ties to high school and colleges for playing football here in the state of Indiana.
And for those of you who don't know, that's for the whole nation. It's not like just our little state that we live in. That's a huge deal. So congratulations
really cool
on that nomination.
Yeah.
I know you're watching right now. So,
honey, I got an email on it this morning, and I haven't had a chance to talk to you about that yet.
I did not mean to
now
spoil
you know.
about
I'm going
it.
to tell you when I got home. Thank you, David.
Sorry about that. So,
but about superheroes.
Well, now we got the real world out of it. Wanted to talk a little bit more about Justice League. I know I talked a little bit by myself on Sunday, so I wanted to get your take on some of the main bullet points that Justice League either hit on or they didn't hit on. And we'll start with, obviously, they introduced a lot of characters. The three main ones they introduced was Cyborg, Flash, and Aquaman. And to be honest, I think Cyborg, they did an okay job doing his backstory a little bit. We didn't get a lot of it, but the scenes I thought were well done. The Flash, we didn't really get any backstory on why he's working 4 jobs. But Aquaman, we got like nothing. Other than he's pissed off, he likes whiskey, and he takes off his shirt a lot. So, but like, I kind of want your take on, we know there's deleted scenes that aren't in the movie, and do you think the director's cut is going to expand on that a little bit more?
I think it has to. Like I said, you've seen the director's cut. I haven't, but we've both seen the movie at this point. My take on it is pretty easy. There's a couple of things about this movie that make me absolutely insane, and frankly, just piss me off. But yeah. Trying to be as fair as possible, and I loved a lot of the stuff you said in your show last week. Okay, I mean, I got to watch it. Unfortunately, I couldn't be here, but I did get to see it. I thought you did a great job. But, Superman, great. Wonder Woman, absolutely spectacular. The new Batman, I'm sold. Deal. Got it. Cyborg, perfect. Perfectly cast, perfectly written. Love it. Don't like where the story's going, which we were talking about in the pre-show, okay? Because all of a sudden Lex Luthor seems to have something to do with this.
Yeah.
Give me a break. But okay, in terms of the casting and whatnot. Aquaman, love the choice to take Aquaman away from the, orange boat neck, purple seahorse, and make him a badass. And if you're going to do that, Khal Drogo from Game of Thrones, great call. Love it. Absolutely love it. But you got to develop it.
Yeah.
I mean, if they made Superman, a 5'2" short, pudgy guy, you'd have to explain it to people. What they did was they took this awesome guy and totally changed Aquaman in his persona and everything else. Now they're changing the story, which we were discussing with a friend of ours, actually the other day.
Yeah.
Shout out to Skylar for all the information. Thank you, buddy. But they've taken the story and twisted that around, which we know happens. But I think Aquaman's going to be okay, but he had to have his own story. That was a huge miss to not let Momoa and Aquaman have their moment in the sun before this came together. Hate the Flash. Hate it. Hate the Flash. Hate it. Hate it. Hate it. You're never going to sell me on it. You had your chance and you blew it. You could have made him Wally West. You could have made him any other incarnation of the Flash. But Barry? Why? No reason. No reason. Hate it. Sorry. Anyway,
No, it's
that's
all right.
my take on the Justice League, and I'm good. Now, you covered everything else last week. I'm done.
Yeah, no. All right. Thank you, Chalkhead. Mike, also thank you for the host. So Mike's a friend of ours, so he's on Twitch as well. Plays a lot of video games. But thank you for the host.
Right on. Thanks, man.
So, all right. So, yeah, that kind of sums up. And, yeah, I did talk about it a little bit last week. So let's dive into something that kind of... I don't know how to put it. Some little we're gonna nitpick a little bit on Justice League a little bit. So
Well, it's so easy to do, you almost have to. At least a
Yeah.
little. And we're not going to spend every show doing this. We talked about that.
right,
But some of this you got to talk about because it's just like,
and something that I didn't think about during the movie because I was spending so much time going, really? So, but Clark Kent, okay, Superman died. Clark Kent died in the destruction from Doomsday versus Superman, according to their own universe. He's back now and he's a homeowner. So they didn't explain any of that. And to me, like, that's a detail that should matter unless they just kind of glossed over it and didn't think anyone would care, but we're nerds, we care.
you have to.
Like,
Absolutely.
like those little things matter. So I don't know where they're going with that. But a bigger thing is consistency within your own universe, okay? So maybe they just took that scene out for Clark Kent. But let's talk about Cyborg a little bit. Cyborg, we know in Batman vs. Superman, Bruce Wayne stole the files that had some information on Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Flash, and Cyborg.
Right.
And one thing that in that it has their logos, like their crest, their superhero crests under each file name on that scene. The Cyborg in Justice League, as his suit evolves throughout the movie, did not have that crest built into his chest until the very end of the movie. So that begs the question, Lex Luthor, who had the files, somehow knew what his chest was going to evolve into and made it his logo? Like little things like that. Like, do you think that was just something they didn't care about in the movie, in the DCU, whatever we call it now? I don't know what we call it, DCMU. But
Sounds good.
yeah, like, what do we care? I don't even know if we care, but like, what do you think about that inconsistency with their own Easter eggs and spoilers and all that stuff?
I think with the Clark Kent thing, I get where you're coming from with that completely, and you would think that, hey, Clark Kent reappearing and Superman reappearing would set off some, alarms someplace with somebody. The fact of the matter, though, is that the only people who know that those two guys are connected are us. And, folks who would see, Joe Schmo over here come back and then see this superhero over here come back, I don't think in the real world would naturally put those things together. Because, again, in the comics, Clark Kent is such a complete disaster that he's dropping his pens and everything else, and I mean, frankly, the old Christopher Reeve Superman did a really good job of playing the mealy mouth Clark Kent, and he to get past the fact that he's 6'4" and looks just like him. But the problem that you have is that the new Clark Kent is still trying to be like an Abercrombie model.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And so he's not playing the I'm a complete inept, klutz goofball, the Don Diego versus Zorro type thing. He's trying to be really cool as Clark Kent and looks just like Superman. So there's again, they're not really trying, but I think there's such a leap of faith that we all have taken for so many years with Clark Kent and Superman that doesn't bother me as much, and they probably just assumed we'd be okay. The Cyborg thing bothers me because of the end credit scene, which I don't know how much spoiler we want to give everybody at this point because it's still early, but it appears that, and you mentioned it in the pre-show, that this is going to be Lex Luthor is involved with this guy somehow.
yeah.
And so if he helped create him, or if he was part of the project, or if he just knows about it, he knows he's going to this particular point. He knows how he's evolving. They did the foreshadowing like a Shakespearean novel of, I don't know what I'm going to turn into. I don't know if I'm the next problem. Gee, you think maybe he's the next problem? You think maybe he's the next threat to humanity because they worried about it so much? I'm guessing possibly. So I think we'll know how bad a mistake that is if it's addressed later.
Yeah.
But for right now, I mean, it just appears to be a pretty bad mistake.
Yeah. So, all right. So,
I know where you're going next. This
Mike,
is awful.
just take off your glasses, and you do look like Clark Kent. Perfect image. And Rory, that's what a kappa is. No,
I recognized it from you telling me the other day.
Something else we need to nitpick on with Justice League is at the end, before the end credits, they were walking through Wayne Manor, and through their conversation about getting a round table but room for more, all that, how many chairs and room for more, they're turning Wayne Manor into the Hall of Justice. I know last week we talked about, I was wondering if they were going to go the Barry Allen forming the Justice League and the Hall of Justice. That's thrown out the window completely because now it's all on Batman.
That was when you and I were talking about The Flash, and I've felt this way about The Flash since moment one, since before the movie even came out. When I found out that they were putting this poor Ezra guy into this role, setting him up to fail, from the beginning, I had an issue with it. And your first defense was, well, it was Barry that kind of founded so that's why they have to have him be Barry. And I was like, I'm going to give you that one. That could work. Okay, maybe. But they took all that away and said, no, we're not going to even address that fact. We're going to have it just be Batman, and he's going to, remodel Wayne Manor into the Justice League. And, oh, by the way, no one's going to figure that out.
Yeah.
I mean, Clark Kent living over here and Superman living over here, that's one thing. But Bruce Wayne looks just like Batman, sounds just like Batman, billionaire. Now his house becomes the Justice League. I don't know. I mean, if I hung up a big Justice League banner over my house, people might think I was involved in it.
Yeah, possibly.
You think? I think it's lazy. I think it's a lazy way to pull that together.
They're like, we built this set, so we should probably use it for something.
We used it, so let's just save some money since we're trying to rush this out for Thanksgiving without really thinking about it.
Yeah. So now, next couple things I want to point out. Again, we're really nitpicking on some things here. In the scene in Atlantis, where Aquaman supposedly finally stepped foot in Atlantis for the first time based on the 10-second conversation and the 4 words we got out of that whole backstory thing. It was really short and annoying. Mira created, which by the way, we didn't learn Mira's name, we just know because we looked up on IMDb that's who the character was. She creates a giant bubble of air for them to have their conversation, but Atlanteans can talk to each other perfectly fine underwater.
I think that our friend Skylar would probably jump in here and go, well, Aquaman was supposed to be half human, so maybe it's only being done for him that way, But I think clearly it was just another case of we haven't thought anything through. We're throwing this out there because it's good theatrics, and we can. There's a line in Jurassic Park where from Jeff Goldblum's character, and he says, you were so excited about the fact that you didn't stop to think whether or not you should. And I think the whole movie of Justice League falls into that line.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely falls into that. So, few things I want to touch base on as far as what we're looking towards the future, but it's still nitpicking. Obviously, Steppenwolf was the villain of the movie. Beside the fact that his face changes color throughout the movie, baffled my mind. My wife pointed it out even. But he teleported around to each location where their mother box was, right? And, other than the giant blue beam of teleportation suckiness that just basically sucked him up into the air and they disappeared, at the end of the movie, when he finally felt fear for the first time because Superman was kicking his butt and Aquaman impaled him in the chest with his trident and all that, so... And obviously the whatever the winged creatures are that we didn't learn the name of, I don't think. Sorry.
Just another thing that didn't matter to the guys making the movie.
That one I think we did learn their name. I just don't remember it. But
okay.
They all turned on Steppenwolf, and then at that moment, the blue beam of teleportation sucked him and all the other creatures back up into the wherever they came from. And we're assuming that's Apocalypse with Darkseid. But why, if Darkseid can watch what's going on with his minions, bring him back if he failed?
Okay. The whole Darkseid thing, obviously, is in the dark, for lack of a horrible, worse pun.
Yeah.
But we don't really know that, obviously. But, that... I don't have a problem with something like that, because that leaves guys like you and I and a lot of our viewers sitting here going, Why'd they do that? I wonder what they're going to come up with next. That's actually good to leave something hanging a little bit, because there is a dark side that's out there. He is related to Steppenwolf in some fashion, and you kind of look at it and go, maybe this was a test run. Okay, kind of like, over in the Marvel universe, goodness, it's killing me. The purple face guy that is in charge of
Thanos.
Yeah. Thanos didn't really think Loki was going to beat everybody and, take over the world. He threw him down there as a test run.
Yeah.
Here, Loki, take my guys and let's see what happens. Oh, crap. There's Avengers down there.
Yeah.
I think I can take them on, but now I know.
Yeah.
It's a little like, throwing something out into the middle of a field to see if a trap goes off. It does. You go, oh, I'm glad I didn't step there. My only thought on that is that maybe this is Darkseid throwing Steppenwolf out the window going, all right, yeah, go ahead. No, I'm behind you 100%. Yeah, go attack that. Let's see what they have.
Yeah.
And if he's successful, great. He didn't have to lift a finger and he got everything he wanted. If he's not, and he wasn't, now he's going, so these guys banded together and the dude in the cape is back. Crap. I better rethink this. But he'll be back because he doesn't think he can lose to any of them anyway.
Yeah.
But now he knows what the defense is. I guess, so.
Yeah. Well, last thing, in the very beginning of the movie, we saw they flash back 5,000 years ago, the 3 tribes of men, Atlanteans, Amazons, and men, apparently, all banded together, along with the gods, like Ares and Athena and all them, and a giant green glowing guy with a green hammer, the Green Lantern from 5,000 years ago. Now, I think you were mentioning earlier in the pre-show that obviously the terrible movie of the original Green Lantern that happened, yes, it unfortunately happened, they still have to have Green Lantern in the universe. So it begs the question, either one of two things. One, where's Green Lantern currently? That's supposed to be protecting, Sector 2814 or whatever it is, where Earth is. 2, if he's not on Earth, one, have Lantern not chosen him yet, or is he off dealing with something else on a different side of the universe? Where do you think they're going to go with that?
Wow, there's 80 answers to all that in my head right now.
Narrow it down to 50. So.
Let me start by saying, the way you started the whole question was you've got all these different groups of people that are mortal enemies with one another, but they all band together to fight against this mighty foe, and a guy with a ring leads the way. I think I've seen that movie a couple of times. And, this little dude named Frodo ended up saving everybody.
You're right.
So I wasn't real impressed by those liberties because it seemed, again...
he lost the ring, too.
It seemed a little cheesy to me because I'm like, did you really just take DC and you didn't know what to do with this, so you threw a Lord of the Rings thing in there and then changed the names? And that's hard. That's really hard to swallow. Then you back up and you start talking about this and you go, all right, Green Lantern. Can you think of, and we talked about this in the pre-show, can you think of any other superhero, like anywhere, where his origin movie was that bad? That bad. I'm talking bad. And I don't just mean bad, I mean horrifyingly bad, okay?
To the point that they had to make fun of it in Deadpool.
The actor... acknowledges how bad it was and makes fun. And again, that was just somebody had too much to drink and said, let's take Ryan Reynolds and throw him in a movie and we'll, I don't know, buy some CGI off of the internet on a free trial and we'll make a movie. It was horrid, in so many ways. And aside from all of that, they, you know what, Chalkhead? See, he's leading me right to my article, man. Eric Bana Hulk was bad. Now, don't get me started on Daredevil with Ben Affleck, because you know what? No. All right, hold on. We'll talk about that another time.
Yeah.
I love you, but hey.
We did talk about that 2 weeks ago of his top 6 Batmans, because Ben Affleck was number 1, Mike. You missed that.
Because of that movie. If he would have been tuning in, he would have seen that. But anyway. But yeah, Eric Bana Hulk was bad. I wrote an article years ago about the top 5 worst superhero movies ever made, and we've just talked about 2 of them.
Yeah,
one was the Hulk and one was the Green Lantern. So I mean, they're horrid. They're really, really, really bad. So he said, "What? It's another time. We'll talk about it another time. We can't go back on the Daredevil kick just yet." But
so we may need a second glass of scotch for that conversation.
Yeah, but we agree on the other ones.
So, all right. So, speaking of bad movies, so let's dive into that before we transition a little bit into the Marvel universe. We've already talked about Green Lantern. We've already talked about the Hulk a little bit. Now, you wrote an article years back, which later this week when we get the website fully up, we'll post that as one of our first articles, so you guys at home can read more into it. But you had top 5 worst superhero movies according to you, and Green Lantern was number 4, and Hulk was number 2. But I want to touch base. Actually, we already touched base on Batman and Robin, so we're going to ignore that one. But Elektra, I'll be honest, I didn't watch. I remember it was a thing, but like, I didn't watch it because I just didn't expect it to be good, so I didn't want to waste my money on it. So, but why was Elektra a bad movie in your opinion?
At least you're honest. A lot of when I do these things and I say, hey, this was the worst, some of this is expectation versus what happens too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When the first Hulk movie came out, for instance, the reason I have that ranked as 2 as the second worst, movie of all time is because the expectation was, no more Lou Ferrigno with the wig. I can't wait. This is going to be awesome. You got Sam Elliott as Colonel Ross. I mean, and you're thinking, I don't know who the heck Eric Bana is at this point, but why not? And you're like, how important can that be? Oh, and Nick Nolte's going to be in it too, because he was still cool back then.
Right?
Oh, dear God. It just fell apart. It's another instance of the guys making the movie were so excited with what they could do with CGI, they didn't stop to think whether or not they should.
Yeah.
And they'd keep going and going and going to the point where the Hulk is flying in outer space. And you're like, no.
Nope.
No. So, but back to Elektra. The thing about Elektra was that, Elektra is a very strong character. She was a strong female character in the Marvel Universe. And she interacted with some of the best cult characters like Wolverine, Daredevil. You know what I mean? Captain America on and off. She wasn't the Black Widow or anything, but, she was part of the Hand. She was an assassin for hire. She had a little bit of time with Tony Stark where she interacted there. I mean, she was prominent. She was somebody. But her story with Daredevil is important. And, in the Daredevil movie that Chalkhead can't stand, which I understand totally, she was actually one of the better parts of the movie. Okay? Because, again, someone who's just furious with the world and builds herself up skill-wise. And, she doesn't have any superpowers. She's just really, really good. Mm-hmm. Well, in the Elektra movie, what you get, instead of this awesome assassin with, martial arts powers and, creeping up on bad guys and taking out, she's a female version of the Punisher, is what she really is in the comics. So instead of going that route, they get so lost in romanticizing the fact that it's a female superhero. They bring in another ER guy, Gorick somebody or other, he was prominent at the time, who's terrible as this girl's dad. This other girl is like the chosen one. She beats everybody up with a little gold chain. She's all of a sudden fighting the Hand because it's actually a member of the Hand that killed her family. And you're like, I just watched you in Daredevil. And wasn't it Bullseye in that movie that killed your dad? But how did we just forget that? So it's awful. And then, frankly, and I'm not some prude, but, when you cap the whole thing off with the biggest, girl-on-girl kiss that ends up coming in second in the MTV Best Kiss of the Year contest, only to Spider-Man and Mary Jane when Spider-Man's upside down and he's Tobey Maguire. And I'm sitting there with my daughter.
Yeah.
What do you... There's just... the movie was awful. The character of Stick was awful. They made no reference to Daredevil in the actual movie, which is why she got a movie in the first place. The storyline was terrible. The writing was terrible. And they took a fantastic actress, because I'm a huge Jennifer Garner fan. Frankly, she and my wife are like the spitting image of one another. And
So you're saying I should meet your wife?
Well, not now.
No.
No, but seriously, she is. And so I'm a huge Jennifer Garner fan, and they ruined it. They took everything that she could have done in that movie and just ruined it.
Yeah.
It was really awful. Can I tell you how awful it was some more? Because it was awful.
Was it awful?
That's why it's on the list.
That's why it made the list.
That's why it's on the list.
That's a good way. So when you make a list, that's the end all be all. There's no dispute.
Right.
There's no discussion. Mike, you're wrong. So no. No, anyway, Mike, we love you, but
That's just my list. That's my list. I make the list so that people will disagree with me and we can have a good discussion about it.
Yeah.
That's the point to making it. So you can have fun.
To kind of round out this little bit of a segue, we've beat up on Justice League. We beat up on the DC universe, but part of this discussion was to point out that Marvel hasn't hit their stride in every movie as well. But in the current version of the MCU, your number one worst movie that you said was actually in the current version of MCU, which we've both praised the current version of the MCU and how they do things and their storyline and their how do they lay Easter eggs and everything like that, their attention to detail, Howard the Duck, all that. Your number one worst movie was Iron Man 3.
Awful. And again, that comes back to expectation versus what happened. Iron Man 1 was, conversely, one of the best superhero movies I've ever seen. I thought it was fantastic because it didn't go over the top and out in left field and everything else. They stayed true to story up until the end when he announces to everybody, I'm Iron Man. But back then we didn't realize that every superhero and every show and every movie has to give away their secret identity at least 75 times, apparently, to everybody who will listen, because it never happened. But, if one of the things I ask in the article about that is, can you, who has seen the article, can you sum up the movie of Iron Man 3 in a couple lines?
In a couple lines?
What's it about?
There's something about a conference from 20 years ago where Tony Stark pissed off someone by imitation. Penny apparently has superpowers, and Pepper, yeah.
So I'm with you. Go ahead.
And there's a lot of suits. Oh, by the way, that had no plot in that description. So
that's kind of
so.
You know what? I'm going to read this. I don't read verbatim.
Go ahead.
Just this once, because this is kind of like my rant, okay? Iron Man was struggling with his relationship with Pepper. The Mandarin was a terrorist that was waging war against America. Ben Kingsley's playing the guy. This is Sir Ben Kingsley, okay, playing the bad guy. Of a major bad character in the Iron Man comics. They turn him into this sniveling little actor who has no backbone and isn't really a bad guy and he's pretending to be one. Why? There's a mutated army of specialists waging war against mankind, led by some woman that Tony dumped and some guy that he slighted 20 years ago when he was drunk. Rhodes is the Patriot, sort of, but can't really operate it and is trying to protect the president. But wait, he's helping Tony. Tony, I'm sorry, isn't being Iron Man and using his superior intellect and everything else and his fortune. He's stranded in the middle of, I don't know, Nebraska or Wisconsin or some other, I think it's Nebraska. And he happens to run into some genius kid in a garage who helps him build a sponge and a spring, and he goes and attacks the Mandarin with, I don't know, an erector set and a hardware packet. And then at the end, they bring in 750 suits of armor for no reason, all of which fire a shot and get destroyed.
Yeah.
They don't actually even win any battles, because at the end, Tony's sitting there, all of his armor's destroyed, he's looking up and he's like, oh my god, I'm going to die, and Pepper goes like supersonic. Okay. When Pepper went supernova at the end and beat the main bad guy who really shouldn't have been the main bad guy, and Tony was laying on the ground looking up at his secretary going, wow, that's amazing, you're fantastic. This was me. So it was so bad that we've always treated these Marvel movies especially as gifts for the kids for birthdays, Christmas, whatever it is. My youngest son, at 10 years old at the time, actually said, Dad, please don't get me Iron Man 3. I don't want it.
Nice.
If that doesn't tell you that the level of failure of the movie, that your target audience did not want it for free as a present. Don't take up one of my present spots with that movie. I don't want that. That's how bad that was.
Wow.
Sorry, that was a big rant, and I apologize.
It's okay. We haven't even gotten to that in that portion of the show.
Wow.
So,
man, I'm out of breath after that one. I feel very strongly about that one. I'm willing to debate Daredevil all day long with people who care. But you know what? Iron Man 3, ugh.
Nice. All right. So, to move a little bit away from comics just for a touch, and then we'll dive into the future of the MCU a little bit. Read an article this week that piqued my interest because there's a big crave with the internet industry and all that stuff right now, and that's subscription services. Everything you can get a subscription for. You can get a subscription to wine, to food, to movies, to TV, to all these different subscription services, Loot Crate, all that stuff. I get it. I'm subscribed to a couple of them because they're convenient, they're inexpensive per month, and they get you hooked into the TV.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now AMC has talked about that they are experimenting with a subscription service to go watch movies in their theater. Now, it's not official yet, but they're debating whether or not it should be $10 a month so you can see one movie a day. So, like, say it's you and your wife who want to go see a movie, okay? That'd be $20 a month because it's per person, right?
Sure.
But you can see a movie every single day of the month. And their philosophy around that is because the average moviegoer only goes 3 to 4 times a year to the movies. And this last year, movie theaters really took a hit. They lost like 8% in revenue compared to the year before, just in ticket sales. That's why a lot of the prices have gone up and things. Would you, and what do you think about, would you subscribe to a movie theater subscription service like that? And what do you think about it?
I think you're completely right. I think that's where it's going, and I absolutely would. I think that's part of the deal. When you look at who's going to movies, especially, we're still going.
Yeah.
Our age group's going to go. The folks who are older than us, they're going when they can. The folks who are a little younger than us, they're still going to go. It's the millennial generation that isn't going to the theater. But the millennial generation lives on credit cards and says, hey, no problem, and they're all about subscription service. The movie theater is counting on them going, you know what, I'm going to save a lot of money. I can go see whatever I want. It's great. If it's a bad movie, it doesn't really matter. Because if you figure, hey, if I see 5 movies in a month and I've only paid $10, it's $2 a movie. So if one of them sucks, I lost $2.
Yeah.
If I see 10 movies, then each one of those movies only cost me $1, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? If that movie sucked, it only cost me $1. When I went to Avengers 2, and it was awful, I had paid for myself, my wife, my daughter, both my sons, and that was just getting in. And I think that was about $70. And then we spent another $50 to $60 buying popcorn and candy and pop and nachos and slushies and so you're still going to get all the concessions food.
Yeah, and that's why I believe they're doing this, because you know what? Yeah, I'll go to the movies a lot, but what do we always get? At least a drink. That's $5, and for a pop, and let alone people get popcorn, pretzels, candy. I mean, there's beer now at most theaters in the area, which I do think is fantastic. But
I think if Justice League keeps going the way it's going, we're going to have beer just to be able to get through the movie.
I debated getting a beer before we walked into the theater, and I was like, no, it's kind of a work event. We should probably not. But
you're going to need a beer after the movie, just to swallow what you just saw.
There was a drink or 7. But anyway, so I don't know. It's interesting. I think.
Are you going to buy it?
In the short term, no. The long term, yes. And because
you're going to buy it,
I am. And the reason is because to me, and you're maybe in the same boat, and we've had this conversation, is having a night out with your wife is nice. And when you're already paying for something, you're going to use it. Like we use Netflix, we use Hulu, we use it like almost every day. I mean, we have Netflix Kids on every day for my son, but like you're going to use it. You're going to find a way to use it. And it's easy to go, hey, let's get a babysitter. Go see a couple hour movie, grab a pizza on the way home, pick up our son, and have a good evening or whatever.
I agree with you
because
completely.
You can justify it. And when you're out there, you may have all the intentions of being a cheapskate and go like, I'm not going to get a single thing, and then you're like, God, I'm thirsty. So and so you do end up spending money at the concession. So I see it as a good route for the movie theaters. And for us, we're going to see more movies, but it's something that, we're going to have to watch how often we go see it. So if you only use it once a month, it may not be worth it for you. But if you're a big movie fan, like going to theaters, it'd definitely be worth it. So.
Well, how often do you think about what you're paying for Netflix every month?
I don't.
I don't either.
It comes out automatically.
It comes off the credit card. It's $7.99 or whatever it is, and I don't even know exactly what it is, and it just comes right off, and you go.
I know, right?
As long as every time I click it, it comes on the TV, I'm good to go.
Right?
And if I don't watch it in a month, I'm not thinking, oh, I didn't get my money out of that $7.99. It just comes out. So yeah. I think it's actually a really good way for them to maximize the profits. It's probably going to be a good idea.
Definitely. All right, let's transition into the MCU a little bit more hardcore. I touched base on Sunday when I was doing the show about how Disney and Marvel had been very hush-hush about Stage 4. Is it Stage 4? I feel like that's the wrong word.
No, I think you're right.
Okay.
Because of what you were talking about.
Yeah. So, I don't know why I say stage and it sounds wrong, like I'm saying the wrong term that they use. But Stage 4, like we have up on the on our screen right now, the next movies in the MCU that have been announced. And I remember years ago, they announced like 20 movies all coming out and stuff like that. We were all excited, and we saw Infinity War Part 1 and 2. We saw Black Panther, Captain Marvel, Ant-Man vs. Wasp. And right now, that's all that's coming out. Like, we have Black Panther here in, it says right here, in February.
Right.
We have Ant-Man and the Wasp in July. We have Avengers in Infinity War, actually before that in May of next year. And then we only have 2 movies after that. We have Infinity Wars Part 2 and Captain Marvel in March of 2019. So that means, as of right now, Marvel and Disney do not have a movie announced for the fall of 2019. So that's 2 years out. So I guess...
Very unusual for them.
Yes.
But...
So I speculated a little bit on Sunday that because these negotiations were happening with Fox and Sony and all this stuff, and they're debating, if we get access to some of these characters, can we write them into our MCU, and how quickly can we do it? So I think they're being hush-hush until that all settles, but they don't have a lot of time. That's 2 years away, and they got to film it, and they got to do post-production, and most movies nowadays take about 1.5 to 2 years to make, like from start to finish, from writing the scripts to post-production and release in theaters. So, but of the ones we have listed, Black Panther's next. I honestly don't know much about the background of Black Panther other than what they've hinted at in the MCU and random things I've read on the internet. So why, and you mentioned it earlier, why are a lot of people actually very excited for Black Panther that it feels like they're doing it right?
Well, you're going to be shocked to hear this. But a couple years ago, I wrote an article on this.
Oh.
On Black Panther.
Nice.
So I need to make sure that I send that to you and we get that, posted up on the website as soon as we can get that done too. Because I talk a little bit about his actual origin story in the comics. Now, but from what I understand about the movie is that they're going to stay very, very close to his original, actual, like I say, real life origin story. Okay. Yeah. To me, in my world, real life is what happened in the printed comic book. Yeah. Okay, that's real life. Everything after that is pretend, right? Okay. So, but in real life, how T'Challa came to be, his relationship with his father, the education, he leaves to go get this education, and then comes back to help his country. The fact that he's an African American superhero is not lost on anybody. I mean, he was presented that way in the past because we needed that. We had to have some diversity in the comics because you couldn't just have everybody looking like Captain America. Yeah. You know what I mean? You couldn't just have white guys saving the world. I mean, that wouldn't be how it really would happen if it was happening in real life. So, yeah. But the Black Panther is more than that because he's this dark, driven hero, okay, who doesn't just go out to save humanity. He's not Spider-Man who's looking for the mugger on the street. He's not Captain America who's trying to protect the whole country. He's not even Superman, who's flying around trying to save the planet. He is just trying to protect Wakanda. And so part of his story is that, even though he has alliances with the Avengers and with, Captain America in particular, through the Black Widow also, if what's going on in the world doesn't impact Wakanda in some way, even through a trickle-down situation, he really doesn't get involved in it. He's kind of hey, this is your problem. I'm taking care of my country. He's the king.
Yeah.
of his country. And so he's by day taking care of it, by night taking care of it. And there really is no secret identity to it within Wakanda. The secret identity is once he gets out of Wakanda, So, like in Winter Soldier, when they bring him in, a lot of that is, newly written, new twists on things. But the only reason he's involved is because in that movie, this guy killed his father, so now he wants to go get him, If there wasn't a personal attachment or something having to do with Wakanda, you would never see the Black Panther involved.
Yeah.
So he's a little mysterious, but he also kind of has that attitude of, hey, I'm taking care of mine. Go be you. Which is interesting.
Yeah.
It isn't just another guy who's trying to, save a cat in a tree.
And based on the previews, the trailers, you do get that vibe. Like, he's outside of Wakanda, basically because we see the guy from the second Avengers who lost his arm, who was smuggling stuff out of Wakanda. And I'm assuming he's going to get him to get justice or whatever. Something's going on, and then obviously... And this is where I guess I haven't read too much about it, but it seems like from the trailers, another person who has a claim to the throne steals that guy, that smuggler, and then him and Black Panther have a big fight. Because he gets a Black Panther suit as well, but it has more gold frill right here, but the rest is black. It's almost identical to the Black Panther. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
To the Black Panther suit. So I wonder, is this because the death of the father in Civil War? There's a power struggle internally now. Like, I don't know, I guess. Is that his brother?
And again, in real life, according to the comics, that's not part of it. But are they going to bring in a brother situation where maybe he's got a half-brother or, some other person with a claim to the throne like, happens in the real-life Aquaman story? That's always good theater, and that's going to be great. They're going to take liberties with it, just like they have with the origin of Wolverine and just like they have with everything else, on both sides of the table. But, in terms of the actual Black Panther, his character's going to remain true to form. His story's going to remain true to form. The conflict is probably going to go a different direction. They're going to do everything they can to make it, relevant.
Yeah.
To today and to today's viewers, I think. So, and that's important to do. So I understand taking certain liberties like that, but, again, from what I understand of the movie, it's going to be fantastic.
It looks pretty good.
In terms of casting, Chadwick Boseman, wow. They when they originally started talking about bringing a Black Panther around, the first guy they thought of and the guy they had slated for it was Wesley Snipes. And that was Passenger 57 Wesley Snipes.
Oh, okay.
Not what
Blade.
is it? Tu Wong Fu, Julie Newmar or something, where he's dressed up with makeup.
I don't know. I was
not that one.
Blade.
No, Blade would have worked. Blade Wesley Snipes would have worked great, But the Wesley Snipes that was in the Expendables, not the guy you want to have being the Black Panther anymore. So I'm not real sure what happened to him, but Chadwick Boseman, if you saw him in 42, the movie 42, playing Jackie Robinson, that guy has this introspective, just, intelligence look about him. Like, he knows what's going on, but he's got this slow burning fury going on underneath that he's keeping in check. And of course, in Jackie Robinson's story, it's all about, racism and baseball and, him not being able to go do what he wants to do. In Black Panther, it's a very similar type of character where he doesn't really want to be the king of Wakanda, but he has to be.
Yeah.
And he has all of this that he feels, and he keeps it all in check. And when he lets it out, that's when the Black Panther persona comes out. And it's a bad thing. So I can't wait to see the movie. I think it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Utterly fantastic.
A few other movies that... let's start with the one I don't know what to think about. And that is Ant-Man and the Wasp. Not versus the Wasp. Ant-Man and the Wasp. Now, obviously, the first Ant-Man movie, they teased the Wasp suit at the end. Which I know we were excited about. But I guess I don't know where they're going to go with this movie. Like, we haven't seen a trailer or anything like that. But in reality, it's only 7 months away before it comes out. 8 months. July. So, what do you think the point of this movie is going to be? Do you think they're going to take it anywhere in a certain direction or anything? So,
Well, we've heard other people that we've talked to about this call it Ant-Man versus the Wasp type of thing, and that's really not what it is. I mean, it's Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah.
Okay, and I mean that's almost a romance if you think about it, because Pym and Janet are, the Ant-Man and the Wasp. He becomes Giant Man then, at some point. They're together. They're an item. They're a unit. You know what I mean? Throughout most of the Avengers saga. So this is another step in his evolution. It has to have some kind of play into the Marvel Universe, especially with the new Avengers and getting into Infinity Wars, or there's no reason to do this. I have a real hard time with Ant-Man because I utterly despise Paul Rudd. As a superhero, I had a hard enough time back when he was in the Friends sitcom. He'd made me kind of ill.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm just not a fan. And when they made him a superhero, I kind of went, really? Because Hank Pym wasn't that in the comics.
Yeah.
Or even in the cartoon versions of comics. It's hard. So what's your take on it? Because it's a couple's story. It's almost a romance.
It does sound like it's a romance, and I just pulled up the brief real quick about it. And it seems it's going to pick up after Civil War. Okay? And, Ant-Man is going to try to, deal with his consequences because maybe he's apparently having a moment of consciousness, a crisis of consciousness or something like that. And something's going to happen from Hank Pym's past. That's what it says. Something's going to happen from Hank Pym's past that's going to come back and matter today, and him and the Wasp are going to have to fight it. So,
see, we're already eons past where we should be with Ant-Man anyway, because Ant-Man was Hank Pym.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they decided to make Hank Pym the old guy, Michael Douglas, and then they came up with this new Ant-Man that, it'd be like taking a Batman movie and going right to Batman Beyond.
Yeah.
And skipping Bruce Wayne and going, oh, he's really out of the movie.
Which I do have to wonder, okay, because they did allude to the fact that Hank Pym was the original Ant-Man because he lost his wife because his wife shrunk down so tiny to save him that he got lost in the space between corks or something like that. Down to the super level. And we saw that in Ant-Man where he got so tiny, but he somehow survived. But we also saw the silhouette in that tiny micro-universe that he was in. It's the silhouette of someone saving him, which we assumed was Hank Pym's wife. Okay, so, and then we also wondered if that tied into Doctor Strange a little bit, and we, with the multiverse and all that stuff, like, we wondered where they were going with that. So,
good point.
The fact that this alludes to something secret from the past, does that mean they're going to bring back the original Wasp in something? And as you brought up, how is that going to tie to Infinity Wars? Are they going to discover another Infinity Gem? Because apparently they're all coming to Earth.
And there's a lot of them.
Yeah. Like, we've had the Tesseract, we've had the Mind Stone.
We're just going to keep making up stones as long as we keep putting out movies. We're going to make up stones. So we'll have a baker's dozen by the end of the whole series.
The other one was in Thor 2. It was in London. Everything but the ones the Guardians of the Galaxy have dealt with has been on Earth. So is the last one going to be on Earth as well?
Well, if the battle's going to take place on Earth, it probably has to. Right? Obviously.
Yeah.
I hope that you're right, actually. I have no idea where Ant-Man's going. I despise Paul Rudd so much that I actually have a hard time watching the movie a second time.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that, Wasp is a key character with the Avengers. And hard to leave her out of it. So if you're going to take your liberties with Ant-Man and go, okay, Hank Pym's over here and the new guy's over here, can you do the same thing with the Wasp and say she's over here and now there's a new Wasp also? That somehow is at some point Marvel's done a pretty good job of maintaining some kind of consistency.
Yeah.
Even if they rewrite the story or even if they make up 10 different tangents on the way, they still do a pretty decent job of trying to pull it all together, unlike Justice League, who threw it all into a pile and said, just use, chopsticks and a fork and it'll all work.
Yeah.
I have to believe that the original Wasp has to come back because it's too big a stretch otherwise.
Yeah. So the last movie that is announced that's coming out. Now, it's not the last one in the chronological order because Avengers Infinity War Part 2 is officially the last movie that is officially announced. But the last one that we haven't talked about is Captain Marvel. Now, this one I know a little bit of a background, and from what I've read about what the direction they're thinking about going with the movie, is they're going to go back in time to like the 90s. Samuel Jackson apparently is going to have both eyes. And they're going to touch base on her origin story and at some point connect it into Infinity Wars, because it's coming out in the middle of the Infinity Wars Part 1 and Part 2. It's coming out in between the two. So I'm assuming she's going to have a major role in the second Infinity War, and maybe she gets introduced in Infinity War Part 1, like at the end or something, and then that's why then we go back and learn her origin story. But like you pointed out that Captain Marvel has an interesting history. She's technically Miss Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think, what do you think they're doing with the Captain Marvel storyline? Because I'm getting confusion on where she's from. I heard she was in the Air Force, but also she was a part of the Nova Corps. So, I guess I don't know the details of like her history. So,
from what I know of it, and I've been a big fan of Miss Marvel for a very long time. My boys actually are big fans of her boots.
Her boots.
Yeah, because in the comics she wears boots that come all the way up, her thigh, big, they're black.
Gotcha.
They're, teenage boys just absolutely love that. So, the fact of the matter is that Captain Marvel in the Marvel universe was a guy. Okay. Miss Marvel is, an alien superhero with super strength that can fly. That's a West Coast Avenger, and is incredibly strong and powerful in her own right, and has incredible leadership skills and very strong female character. I think that what we're doing here is we've got an instance of Marvel saying, okay, we're going to blend all this together. We're going to call it Captain Marvel because it's a better title, first of all. Miss Marvel was a ranking officer in the Nova Corps. So there's that. That's going to tie us into, unfortunately, our Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. So we're going to have to watch Miss Marvel, probably, I'm guessing, ranked as a captain, dealing with Rocket Raccoon somehow. I can't quite get past that either, but it's probably going to happen.
I like Guardians of the Galaxy, and I did enjoy Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I don't think it was as good as the first one, but I'm a fan. But also, that's a little bit of a near and dear to the heart, because one of my favorite authors of all time is Dan Abnett, and he wrote the comics that the movies were strongly based off of. So, like, I've read Dan Abnett from Warhammer to his standalone books to his comics. Anyway, but that's a side point.
Not at all. I mean, it's a great point. Okay, Marvel owns all of this, and that's great. I love Guardians of the Galaxy. I've watched that movie probably 12 times. I think it's hilarious, and it's good, and I enjoy the characters. But taking Guardians of the Galaxy, and I wrote an article on this a couple years ago.
You wrote an article?
Just so you know.
That's fascinating.
I'm sure that shocks the hell out of you.
I did not know you wrote articles.
I know. But I did that. And so taking Guardians of the Galaxy and putting them together with today's current Avengers, okay, and trying to put that together in a ball, is kind of like taking the current Justice League and mixing them with Rom's Space Knight from 1975.
Okay.
Why in the world would you take something that's based on a comic, lighthearted, comedic, you've got a raccoon with a giant machine gun, with some incredibly serious, borderline dark heroes facing inner demons and the whole nine? It doesn't blend. It doesn't mesh at all.
I think I know how they're going to do it. Tom Holland.
Oh.
No, okay. The reason I say that...
You with the Tom Holland. This guy loves the Tom Holland Spider-Man.
I do.
And we have to talk about that a whole other time.
Yeah, we will.
Because we're already going over. But, oh my God.
We're not going over.
You with Tom Holland.
But, okay. The reason I think he's going to bring it together is because I think you're going to have that conflict in Infinity Wars. You're going to have the Avengers and the Guardians of the Galaxies, and they're going to butt heads. They're not going to get along. and you have Spider-Man who's there because Tony brought him along for some reason. And I'm just assuming that's how it happened.
It's all right. Keep going.
So
I'm with you. I'm on this ride.
he's going to break the ice, and he's going to wig out of the fact that Star-Lord has a Walkman. Or a Zune. He has a Zune now. Not a Walkman. He has a Zune.
Right.
So, and it's going to break the ice. I that's my prediction of what's going to happen is there's going to be some cheesy moment between Tom Holland and Chris Pratt that just Captain America or Tony Stark just kind of toss up their hands and go, whatever, we'll work together. So,
You could be right.
I don't know.
I hope to God you're not. Because I don't know if I can sit through that. But you could be right.
We got to sit through 2 movies of it. It's a part 1, part 2.
I'm perfectly okay with that. But oh my gosh. I really hope not, because it's just, it's like mixing Superman with Howard the Duck. You know, I mean, DC owns that too. Or did. Now I think it actually is owned by Marvel.
Yeah, because there was the cameo.
Yeah, Howard the Duck had a cameo at the end of, we're bringing in Howard the Duck.
I'm okay with him as just a cameo. Now, he's been a cameo twice now.
It's Howard the Duck.
Yes, it's Howard the Duck. Now, I don't think the movie gives him justice, per se, but...
He's a duck.
He is a duck.
What justice are you looking for?
He drinks martinis, but...
He's a drunk duck. Yeah, see, it goes out the window at that point, unfortunately.
It does. So,
and same thing with a raccoon jumping on top of a machine gun and trying to, match wits with Captain America. Not going to happen. Can't happen.
So what
Purists like me are going to go,
what if he rides
no.
a shield?
Okay, we need to be done.
All right. So, all right, to kind of wrap up today, let's talk about just something real quick. Well, okay, I'm thinking of 2 different things. Let's wrap up Captain Marvel real quick. Brie Larson is casted as the actress who's going to play Captain Marvel. She's been in a lot of decent things recently. Some comedies, some more serious films. What do you think about her as playing Captain Marvel?
Full disclosure, the movies that they've listed her in, I have not seen.
Okay.
I wish that I had. She looks very familiar. I know I've seen her in something somewhere. She looks the part from what I can tell. But I can't, put a finger on whether or not she's a good casting for it or not. You know what I mean? In all fairness to her, too. I have no idea. What do you think?
I think it's a good casting. And part of it is because throughout her career, she's matured over time. She's, Disney Channel star and matured into more serious roles over time. Obviously, she's still done some lighthearted things like 21 Jump Street, but she's evolved with her character. And so I think her being able to pull off Captain Marvel, who has to be serious and on many points, but also is the badass woman to compete with Wonder Woman to a point. Mm-hmm. I think we already have Black Widow, which does that pretty well, but now you're going to bring in a woman who has superpowers. And I think she could pull it off. She has the acting skills to pull off what the character needs, in my opinion. So,
I'll be right.
I hope. I think it'd be interesting as well to see. So, just want to talk a little bit about the future, about Coffee House Comics, for everyone to kind of get a clue up. We're almost done with the website. We're going to be starting posting articles. In a week, we'll be posting on iTunes all these recordings so far. As in podcast format, so if you like listening to podcasts or you missed the show or you didn't have time to sit through it all tonight, you can always listen to it in your car. So stay tuned. By Sunday, we'll announce the website, and the link will be in that show and everything like that. And
right.
Big things are coming. So, kind of future, way out there talk. We want to grow this and start doing collaboration. So if you know anyone, obviously we're going to do things with people we know. We're going to bring on more guests on the show. We're going to Skype in people, all that stuff. But we also want to eventually build this into a nice little community and go to events. Like, it'd be great to go to Comic-Con and Elkhart just to start, and then maybe Gen Con and those things like that. But we got to build that, and it takes community support. So when we get the website up, when we get all that stuff, please like and share all of our content, and it'd be greatly appreciated, because we do want to grow this into something nice, but it takes you guys supporting us in order for that to happen. So thank you very much for tuning in. Did you have any final thoughts, by the way?
Not at all.
Okay.
I think we're good.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for tuning in to Coffee House Comics. I'm David. This is Rory again. We will see you, I believe, Sunday. We're going to shoot for Sunday again. We'll tweet out if something changes on that. But everyone have a happy Thanksgiving tomorrow, and we will all see you soon.